A portion of this video is sponsored by Squarespace, your one-stop shop for creating the website you've always wanted. They give you all the tools you need to make it a success. More on them though, at the end of the video.
Hello, I'm a Mac.
And I'm...
Here's to the crazy one.
Apple loves their ads. And some of the most iconic TV advertisements in history have come from Apple. And it's gotten to the point now that whenever Apple announces a new product, they announce the new ad right afterwards. At least from the advertisement perspective, the hype is real. I think this all begs a question: how much of Apple's success can be attributed to marketing? Are their products really that good? Or has it all just been hype? Okay, so I want to take a look at some of the most memorable Apple ads, and these go way back.
We celebrate the first glorious anniversary of the information purity.
This ad from 1984 is, in advertising circles, pretty widely regarded as one of the best commercials of all time. And what's kind of crazy about it to me was it wasn't even for an actual product. It was for announcing a product that the Macintosh is coming. And it was setting up Apple versus what was IBM, at the time, the PC behemoth. And so those that wanted and were using IBMs were these zombies in black and white. And here comes Apple in bright color, the Renegade, throwing the hammer through the screen, showing that they were doing things differently. And if you wanted to do things differently, you want to be the outlier, then you should look at what Apple's gonna be announcing with the Macintosh. And it's funny because that same theme sort of goes through the decades with Apple advertising.
What's great about the iPhone is that if you want to check
All right,
snow
so
conditions on the mountain,
looking at that, it's also funny to laugh at how outdated the iOS looks at the time. But also there's an app for that became the go-to slogan for the iPhone. I think Apple fell backwards really into the App Store, but it defined what that phone was going to be and what it was going to do. And that whole there's an app for that just propelled the iPhone. I mean, the iPhone 3G, so this was, really the second iPhone. This is kind of the first mainstream iPhone. Apple learned from the first phone, and this was the phone for mostly everybody. The original iPhone just launched with 2G service. You couldn't really use it when you weren't on Wi-Fi. So this was a giant deal. The App Store had just launched. People were sort of getting used to what apps were going to be. And now Apple was giving you examples of what these apps could do. Did you forget your car? Do you need directions? Whatever you want to do, there's an app store where you can download this app that's going to change your experience on the phone. And that thought process, while seeming obvious now, was really revolutionary at the time. And Apple had to educate people on what that was and what it was going to be. And this did it really well in 30 seconds.
hello, I'm a Mac. And I'm a PC. We use a lot of...
This Mac versus PC thing was a giant deal, and it now has been sort of so overdone. It's even watching it kind of seems like a parody of itself. But it was a big thing, and it got people to think about Macs differently as sort of the computer for the creative. You wanted to do more fun things than the PC, which was boring and for business. This put, I think, the Mac back on the map. This was sort of the heyday of OS X and what it could be and what it was going to do, the whole iLife suite. And these commercials got people excited. Oh, I want to make a photo book. I want to edit movies on my computer, even if people never did. The Mac at least seemed like the tool for creatives, and people want to think of themselves generally as creative, I guess. And this goes right back to that original ad. They're making the viewer of these commercials think about themselves in a certain way, right? Who's gonna think of themselves as the John Hodgman PC characters? Who's gonna think of themselves as the sort of black and white zombies in that 1984 ad? Apple's been a master of changing people's perception of themselves. So when you look back at these ads, you can very clearly see Apple trying to shape the perspective of people. It's also pretty easy to look back at these ads now with the benefit of hindsight and kind of realize why people are hating on Apple and saying they're trying to change the perspective of myself. Anybody who falls for it is a sheep. I can see both sides of it, but if advertising is to get you to buy something, I don't think there's much of a debate that these campaigns were incredibly successful about getting people ready to purchase whatever it was that Apple was about to try to sell them. Clearly, Apple's always been beating their chests and hyping things up. And that hype has sort of percolated down and rubbed off on other tech companies. Pretty much every phone that gets launched right now, every flagship, comes with its own form of keynote. It was Apple that originated that. Pretty much every phone that comes out now has its own hype video, the components kind of coming out and then spushing back in. That all started from Apple. And other companies are doing it because it works. It gets us excited. It gets me excited when I see a new Samsung product, a new Apple product, something new from Microsoft or Google. Like, I get pumped to see all those components float around. It just gets me, as a nerd, excited for new tech. So these tech companies have really Apple to thank for the modern tech marketing. And for all the time it's been successful, there's like a flip side when that marketing hasn't worked. No amount of hype can make a bad product seem good, and Apple has had their fair share. Probably the most recent one is the trash can Mac Pro. And aside from giving us, I think, perhaps one of the best Apple quotes from Phil Schiller ever.
Can't innovate anymore, my ass.
Like, this thing was hype when it was announced. And it was announced way early before it ever shipped. In fact, I was actually there at the keynote when they announced it. It looked amazing, but Apple engineered themselves into a corner. They were trying to show what they could do, and it wasn't function, it was more form. There were thermal issues, you could only use certain size cards. It was just a mess. No surprise that this bombed epically and was replaced by a more conventional looking tower for the new Gen Mac Pro. I'm not saying the HomePod is a bad product. The audio quality that comes out of the HomePod is perhaps unmatched in the industry, but Apple was late to the game, came in at a $350 price point, and they were competing against super small $50 speakers, and sometimes even free. Google was giving their Google Home Minis away for a really long time, and it was hard to see the compelling reason to buy the HomePod. Now, there is still hope that HomePod 2 or HomePod Mini could be a huge success, and there's been big discounts on the HomePod right now. I picked one up for $200 on sale. So at that price point, different story, but at launch and even now at full retail price, it's hard to understand the HomePod. 2014, Apple gave a keynote that was super hyped and rumored for years. It was a keynote when we first saw the Apple Watch, the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, the first giant screened iPhone. This was a really big deal, and Apple wanted to end this keynote with the biggest Apple bang possible. They brought out U2, played a song, and they're like, U2's got a new album coming out, Songs of Innocence. It's amazing, and as a special gift, we're going to give the album away to everybody for free, which sounds great until how they did it.
2, 1.
First of all, the album just showed up in everybody's iTunes, but then you couldn't delete it. It wasn't until there was outrage that actually Apple let you delete the album from your iTunes library. It was an absolute mess. Apple was trying to do something nice, but they bungled it hardcore. Clearly, Apple is not a perfect company, but these things that I announced, especially in the modern Apple days, came out with a ton of hype, and just goes to show that no amount of hype, no amount of market wizardry can make a bad product a long-term success. You have to have some substance to have the style to do absolutely anything. So I'm sure at this point, you guys watching are clearly split on how Apple has done. If their products are just marketing hype and sheep are buying it up, or if there's something substantial behind what Apple's doing. They have good marketing for good products. And I tend to fall in that camp. Whether or not you like Apple or don't, their products are generally pretty good, and they tend to deliver on what they promise. And marketing is a way to share that promise, to show people an idea for a product that perhaps they didn't think of, and make that new thing seem like a must-have. And there are some times when it's a clear miss. But I think Apple has kind of run the gamut of good marketing and good products, at least up till now. With rumors of new products coming in new categories over the next couple years, it's gonna be interesting to see how this marketing machine works. Are people ready for AR glasses to hit mainstream? Are people ready for even things like an Apple Car? The next couple years for Cupertino's history, gonna be pretty interesting to watch. So at this point, Squarespace is synonymous with creating a website, and they're known so well for a good reason. They make creating a website easy and powerful. And they give you all the tools to do it, even down to like picking the URL that you want. They have website designs and templates. They make it really simple. You don't need to know any coding to build a really powerful website. And also a powerful website that's going to be searchable. They've got SEO tools built in, analytic tools built in. They've got campaigns to set up email marketing. You can set up your own email accounts through Squarespace. And as somebody who ran a website for a lot of years on very complex back ends, the ease of Squarespace and the power of what it can do is awesome. So if you had an idea in your head for a website you've always wanted to make, now is an awesome time to do it. And Squarespace gives you the tools to do it yourself and make it look professional. Go to squarespace.com/Jon Rettinger. You can try it for free, but if you decide to buy either a website or a domain, they'll give you 10% off.